Good evening, Happy New Year, y bienvenidos to Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. I'm Alex Hernandez of Noticias Univision Chicago, which airs every weekday morning at 5 and 6. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. On the show tonight, the Biden administration announces new rules in an effort to reduce the number of unlawful border crossings. Woodlawn residents push back on a plan that will use vacant school as housing for migrants. Logan Square residents battle high property taxes amid gentrification. We pay a visit.
The term that's used a lot is cultural humility.
Finding a therapist who understands who you are and where you come from can be difficult. We explore that search.
It's like music, it just like transcends time and language.
And Chicago band A Flor de Piel connects new generations with their twist on traditional Mexican folk music. All that coming up, but our first story tonight, a major crackdown on illegal border crossings. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight, Latino Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
The Biden administration announces new rules in an effort to reduce the number of unlawful border crossings. Migrants would be denied the chance to apply for asylum if they cross the U.S.-Mexico border without authorization. The rules would expand the parole process also for migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and accept up to 30,000 people per month only if they apply ahead of time and meet several other requirements.
We all recognize that as long as America is the land of freedom and opportunity, people are going to try to come here. And that's what many of our ancestors did. And it's no surprise that it's happening again today. We can't stop people from making the journey, but we can require them to come here, that they come here in an orderly way under U.S. law.
Joining us now with more are Karina Ayala Bermejo, President and CEO of Instituto del Progreso Latino, and Alejandra Oliva, Community Engagement Manager with Heartland Alliance's National Immigrant Justice Center. I want to welcome both for joining us today, but I want to start with you, Karina. We just heard what the President said. Do you think these new rules, or what do you think they mean for people who are willing to take the journey and arrive at the Mexico-U.S. border?
Well, thank you, Alex, for having me. I think it's important to remember that the domestic and international laws around the right to asylum are still in existence, right? The U.S. cannot disregard that right for individuals to seek asylum. And what this is doing is not humanitarian, right? It's an issue that, yes, it's in the borders, but it's also within the borders. And it's causing individuals who are fleeing persecution and violence to then be turned away at the border.
Right. Wouldn't you say it's also not humanitarian for them to make that difficult and dangerous journey also all the way through the U.S.? I mean, many people have died, unfortunately.
Absolutely, and we know that with Title 42, many have died when they've been returned. I think that the new stipulations are going to get things more complicated. The very fact that now there's restricted ports and individuals who have that very right to go to the border and seek asylum are going to be summarily rejected instead of protected by the asylum laws. It is no understatement that the immigration system is broken, but the U.S. asylum system exists for that, for U.S. Borders to allow asylum seekers to file for asylum.
Precisely, Alejandra, as we heard the Biden administration say, the U.S. will accept up to 30,000 migrants per month. In what way do you think this addresses the humanitarian issue that is going on right now at the border?
It doesn't. 30,000 people is a very small amount of people, and parole is not the same thing as asylum. It is temporary, and the restrictions that have been placed, we've already seen have had a limiting factor on the number of Venezuelans who have been able to cross the border. They've had a very similar program that was instituted in October of last year, and in order to cross the border, these folks need to have a financial sponsor in the United States, a plane ticket, and a passport. And what that forces them to do, first of all, it restricts people who have already a tremendous amount of financial privilege and the ability to coordinate and already have family or friends or people they know here in the United States. So it restricts it to that group. Furthermore, even if you have these privileges, even if you are able to come here by airplane or with a passport, you still have to wait in a country that you know is dangerous for you, that you would like to flee, to get all of that lined up and to get all of that ready to go. And it's just going to put a lot more people in danger's way to make them go through these steps in order to claim a right that they already have.
Right. Karina, under what basis does the Biden administration have the authority to deny people the chance to apply for asylum?
I think that's the executive order that presidents have, but let's not forget that we are passing, right, that issue. We're kicking the can back to Mexico. We are saying that I'm not going to deal with this problem, it's too big. And that's not a U.S. way, right? We can't ignore, we have to uphold the fact that there are decades old, not just domestic, but international laws to protect asylum. So in my opinion, that is circumventing those rights. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many immigration attorneys, that is just kicking a problem and it's a really lazy, disrespectful way to address that the individuals most hurt are those that are fleeing violence, that those laws were intended to protect.
Right. Karina, as we know, President Biden is expected to be at the border on Sunday. What message do you think he's trying to send?
I believe he's going to be reiterating many of the same things that he that he said yesterday about, keeping our borders safe and talking about things like that, when in reality, again, this is doing the exact opposite. It is making people more unsafe. It is creating added stress on systems that are already incredibly pressure-filled. So I think this trip is a way for him to, show off a plan that he thinks will work. But I think all the evidence we have suggests that it won't.
Okay. Karina, what do you see the possibility of a comprehensive immigration reform? Where are we heading?
So that's the root cause. We have to focus those efforts. This can't be a Band-Aid approach. We must look at comprehensive immigration reform, citizenship for all, and ensuring especially our DACAs to get that opportunity to live in their fullest potential. And let's not forget that we have refugees right now here in Chicago that we need funding for. So please fund those programs so we could have a humane resettlement plan for those seeking asylum.
Alejandra, same question.
I really agree with a lot of the things you said. There is so much money in our immigration system already, but it is mostly going towards detention. And there are so many ways that all of those resources, all of that money could be going to helping people have a good, solid start to life in the United States instead of keeping them incarcerated, usually for no reason.
Yeah. What would you like to see happen?
For the funding to be redirected towards community-based programs like many of the ones that have stepped up here in Chicago in the last several months, and just to see the point of the immigration system not to be restriction, but to be helping people who need it have a good life.
Before we go, what is your organization doing in response to this announcement?
So we have already put out a statement strongly condemning this, and we are currently sort of waiting on the full text of all of these different regulations to be put out in the Federal Register, and then we'll be working with many, many other organizations across the country who have had really similar reactions, push back against this, and remind the federal government of what our obligation is towards these refugees.
Karina, same question.
Instituto del Preso Latino has already been working, whether it's case management, assisting with filing the petitions for those asylum seekers. We are working directly with the city and the state and the county to be ensuring that those that are within our borders here are safe, but also addressing that very important long-term comprehensive immigration reform, addressing the root cause, because this issue didn't develop overnight, and it's going to take everyone's effort to really address the root causes.
If you could talk, we have less than 30 seconds. If you can talk directly to people in those countries right now that are thinking about making the journey, what would you tell them?
Please ensure that your journey, first and foremost, is safe. we understand that you are fleeing because you're being persecuted or there are situations in your home country that are unbearable. Be sure that when you arrive, that you have someone that you can trust. We here in Chicago and in the state of Illinois will continue to be a welcoming city and state. And we will do with that everything within our power to ensure that your safety is here.
I want to thank both Karina Ayala Bermejo and Alejandra Oliva for joining us today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Up next, a migrant housing controversy in Woodlawn. Stay with us. Mayor Lori Lightfoot is halting plans to turn a shuttered school in Woodlawn into a shelter for immigrants bused to Chicago. The move comes amid uproar that has roiled the race for 20th Ward alderperson and exacerbated tensions between Black and Latino Chicagoans. The announcement comes just days after Lightfoot defended her plan on Chicago Tonight.
We had a community forum with them last week where they raised, I think, a number of legitimate concerns. But fundamentally, we have to be a welcoming city by living our values. It can't just be the responsibility of one community versus another.
WTTW News reporter Heather Sharon joins us now with more. Heather, thank you for being here. And Heather, well, we just heard from the mayor, Lori Lightfoot. Why did her office reverse the course on this plan to house up to 500 immigrants who are seeking asylum?
Well, the location of this shelter has been controversial for months, and those complaints boiled over at a rally on Thursday, 24 hours before the first immigrants were set to move into the refurbished school. It was clear that the community had significant questions about what the proposal would mean for their neighborhood and whether it would compromise their safety.
You talked with the organizer of that rally, Jennifer Maddox, who is running to unseat 20th Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. Why does she oppose the opening of that shelter?
Well, she does not oppose the relocation of the immigrants to Woodlawn, but she does oppose the way it has been done. She says that Mayor Lightfoot made this decision without consulting anybody who lives in Woodlawn and has not shared her reasons for picking the school and how it will be run as a shelter with Woodlawn residents. And she says that is unacceptable.
Also, Taylor has opposed the mayor's plan to turn the former Wadsworth Elementary School into a shelter for months, actually. What impact has this issue had on her bid for re-election?
Well, it has really roiled the race because Jeanette Taylor, as you said, has been leading the charge against this shelter, and now she's in the position of sort of having to figure out how to cope with its opening, even though she didn't want it to open in the first place. Jennifer Maddox lost to Jeanette Taylor in 2019. This is a rematch, a head-to-head rematch, and there's no doubt that this issue will be front and center for many Woodlawn voters.
Definitely, and both Taylor and Maddox agreed the proposal has exacerbated tensions between the Black and Latino communities. What happens now?
Well, at that rally on Thursday, several speakers really voiced anti-immigrant sentiment, and both Maddox and Taylor said, look, that's not what we're talking about here, but there's no doubt that many Black residents see Latino immigrants coming to their community in a school that was shuttered in 2013 under much controversy as a real insult. And it's not clear how that tension is going to be resolved. Both Maddox and Taylor hold Lightfoot responsible for that tension.
Right. Having the numbers of immigrants coming to Chicago being reduced, they have dropped in recent weeks. Wouldn't that change this issue?
You would think that it would, but the city has about 1,500 immigrants still in their care. More than 4,000 immigrants had been sent to Chicago from Texas, with another 1,400 coming from other countries. So there is still a huge burden on the city's emergency shelter network.
Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. And you can actually read Heather's full story on our website at WTTW.com/news. Up next, Joanna Hernandez and how residents in a Northwest Side community are responding to a spike in property taxes. Stay with us.
Logan Square is one of the neighborhoods battling a significant increase in property taxes. The area used to be mainly a Latino population, and over the years, the number has decreased to 36%. Some of those longtime residents say they don't know how long they'll be able to pay taxes, maintain a home, and survive there.
Now we have to choose between putting our kids through college or paying for the home, fixing our home, or paying the taxes.
Some people may welcome gentrification, but it's causing a burden for families like Norma Rio Sierra.
We're about to be displaced. You know, if there's no relief, if there's no way to keep up with these increases, then that's it. That's what pushes us out. That's the nail in the coffin that will, push me out of a neighborhood that I've been in my whole life.
In Logan Square, Christian Diaz is the head of housing for Palenque, LSNA, an organization catering to the brown and black community.
It really is shocking. Some people have gone from having to pay like $4,000 to $6,000, and a lot of these notices came right before Christmas, so it's a very emotional thing. I mean, your home is an emotional topic.
With property taxes spiking in communities on fixed incomes, Diaz says it's not an even playing field for working class families.
We want them to understand what programs are out there to help them, so we want them to appeal their property taxes as much as possible. We want them to, if they qualify for senior property tax exemptions or long-term homeowner exemptions.
In Logan Square, the median residential bill increased by 18% over last year's tax bill to an average of $8,000. So why the spike? Kevin Burke has been a property tax attorney for more than 30 years and says it comes down to where your property is located. New developments in the neighborhood drive people to the area, meaning an increase in property value.
We also get asked frequently by property owners, isn't there some limit to the increase? And the answer is in Illinois, no. If the assessor thinks your value of your property tripled, or maybe he was too low the last time, he can increase it by 3, 4, 5 times.
Leaving homeowner Rio Sierra and her family paying the price.
You can appeal every tax increase, but that in and of itself costs money too, right? Do you have money to pay for a lawyer that's going to file that appeal? Is it even going to even out? Are you just going to break even? Just give me a tax break. We've been here for 30 years.
Mayor Lori Lightfoot tells Chicago Tonight there's still work to be done in reforming the assessment system.
It's a zero-sum game. And when we see, for example, the Board of Review making big concessions to commercial properties, who bears the brunt of that? Residential homeowners. So we've got to fix that problem as well. We're looking at a number of different solutions. There have been some aldermen that have come forward to offer up some solutions.
Those solutions may come too late for decade-long residents in Logan Square who face being displaced. Burke says a solution could be for the city to rely less on property taxes to fund city schools or city parks.
A couple alternatives that none of them are favorable for a homeowner: sell, which they don't want to do, raise rents, which they don't want to do, or as you said, put off home repairs that they were planning on doing.
Local resident Coleman Bryce is a director at Palenque, owns a local bar, and acknowledges the privilege he has to be able to afford the tax hike.
I feel like a lot of the property values are based on, flipping activity in the neighborhood or people coming into the neighborhood to try and profit off of it. So some kind of reward, some kind of stability for those folks who are trying to stay in their homes long term.
Rio Sierra says soaring property taxes are driving out one of the city's most important populations.
Stop using the system against us, because we are a valuable part of the city. We've contributed so much to the city, and we deserve to be able to live here. Someone who has put in the effort in this community, somebody who's college educated, who is doing the best to be a part of a community, to be a good part of the community, right? Like, why do we constantly get pushed out?
Burke also mentioned to pay attention when you receive a notice from the assessor's office. That can help determine how much time you have to appeal within the deadlines. And up next, the challenges of finding a culinary appropriate therapist.
Dealing with everyday challenges, large and small, can be difficult. And for many in the Latino community, finding a therapist who understands their culture may not be easy either. In partnership with Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism, we take a look at the issue on our website, WTTW.com/news. Here's a journalist and Northwestern professor, Ava Thompson Greenwell, with a portion of that story.
Nestor Flores is Director of Behavioral Health Initiatives at Pilsen Wellness Center. Flores says that after a family tragedy, he had trouble finding a therapist. Eventually, he became one.
And when we sought services, we did encounter that sensation that we weren't finding services in our language, in our culture.
The National Alliance on Mental Illness reports that only 35% of Hispanic Latino adults with mental health challenges receive yearly treatment, compared to the U.S. average of 46%.
So you're already going through something very difficult, perhaps depressed, anxious, and then on top of that, you have to translate, not necessarily the language, but just your culture to someone who knows nothing about it.
Flores says besides having a therapist from a similar background, it's important to find one who's willing to learn.
And so now the term that's used a lot is cultural humility, which it means you're approaching a culture with this humility of, I may know some things about your culture, some things may resonate or connect with between us, but there's a lot that I won't know.
You can actually see the full story, produced in partnership with students at Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism, on our website. And we continue. The sounds of Mexican folk music cross borders, genres, and generations. Oftentimes, it's passed through families who play traditional music in celebrations and at home. Here in Chicago, a family band is keeping those beloved rhythms alive and thriving by infusing them with a modern sensibility. Here, Marisol, Renato, and 16-year-old Sage Cerón, better known as A Flor de Piel, performed their spin on the classic son jarocho La Bamba.
I've known it my entire life, from the movie La Bamba, where I was just excited to see someone that looked like me on the big screen. And then I started learning more information about it as I got older. Learning that it was 300 years old, and it was used as a call to escaped slaves, let them know to keep going up and up, to escape. I just love it.
Para bailar la bamba se necesita una poca de gracia. Una poca de gracia y otra cosita y arriba y arriba.
I wasn't technically alive to remember it, but so 2007, 2008, the recession hit, and my parents are like, well, we need to make more money, but we also really love to play music. They had their whole show, and then I was born, and they brought me along to the shows, and when I could walk, I walked up to the stage, and I grabbed the microphone, and I just started singing gibberish, and then that's when I became a part of the group, so, yeah.
I didn't learn this music in Mexico, but when I moved here, I kind of had that longing for that. So I kind of went deep into learning all these different styles, but yes, especially when we met Sage, and she forced herself into our duet, which became an official band member. That definitely brought in the younger vibe to our sound.
Even if you're just vibing along and grab a jarana and jump to the song, and you know it's gonna be okay when you sing bamba, bamba like slave.
Music, it just transcends time and language and all of that other stuff that gets in the way of a connection to the soul. I love the folk songs and the tradition that we play, and adding the electronic aspect or adding rap or different genres going in there. It's a way to just connect more people.
It creates new experiences for us, and I think the other people also enjoy that. So I think that's what keeps us coming back for more.
Sounds great, doesn't it? You can actually find more on A Flor de Piel on our website. Well, that's going to be our show for this weekend. Be sure to check WTTW.com/news for the very latest from WTTW News, including nominees being announced for the Chicago Forestry Board after an 18-month delay. And if you're watching us on Saturday night, know that you can also catch Latino Voices and Black Voices on Sundays beginning at 10 p.m. Don't forget also to tune in to Noticias Univision Chicago every weekday morning. I'll be waiting for you. We leave you tonight with more music from A Flor de Piel. For all of us here at Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, I'm Alex Hernandez. Thank you for sharing part of your weekend with us. Buenas noches.
So don't take it slow, and even if you're just vibing along, then grab a jarana and jam to the song, and you know it's gonna be okay when you sing.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that is proud to be a multilingual law firm that provides translators for a variety of languages.